Okay, so at the top of your new clean page, you should write the title of today's notes, which is Adverbs. Adverbs. And then today's date, May 17th, 2021. Zari, where are you? Ethan, do you have a piece of paper to write these notes on? And then we can staple them into your notebook. Okay. So adverbs. We've talked a lot about adverbs, but today we're just going to go more into detail. First of all, what is an adverb? So we're starting on the pink line with our dot. Oh, good. Okay. And an adverb is, who remembers? What is an adverb? Victoria.
An adverb is
Kingston?
a word that describes a verb.
Good.
I looked at adjectives.
Good. That's all you had to do. That's exactly what I would do. Because even though there aren't patterns all the time in grammar, there are a lot. And also we've talked about adverbs so much, just a little like in passing, that we all should know an adverb is a word that describes a verb. How is that different from an adjective? An adverb is a word that describes a verb. How is that different from an adjective, Mason?
Because adjectives describe nouns or pronouns.
Because adjectives describe nouns and pronouns. Adjectives describe people, places, things, or ideas. Adverbs describe actions. So, how do we know it's describing a verb? Well, an adverb tells how, when, or where a verb, which is an action, happened. So if the word answers the question, how did the verb happen? When did the verb happen? Or where did the verb happen? It's an adverb. Can we say how a noun happens? Can I describe how a cat? Can I? Can I describe when a cat? Can I describe where a cat? No, but can I describe how the cat ran? Can I describe when the cat ate? Can I describe where the cat sleeps? Do you see here the difference? I'm not describing the cat when I say how. I'm describing how it ran, the action. I'm describing when it ate, the action. I'm describing where it slept. Where are they in the sentence? Well, they can be written before or after the verb they describe. So unfortunately, we can't just be like, oh, an adverb is always the word before the verb. Or, oh, an adverb is always the word after a verb. Because they can be in either place. And I'll give you a minute to write that, and then we'll see examples of it happening each way. here's two examples. Let's look at an example where the adverb is before the verb. I quickly ran to the store. I quickly ran to the store. We know we're looking at adverbs. Which of these words describes how something happened? Aaron? Quickly. So quickly is the what?
Adjective.
Adverb. Please make sure that you're thinking before you just let the words come out of your mouth. Because that also means you may think you said adverb, but you may not have. If you're not thinking about what you said, you may think you said the right thing. Like, Aaron knew it was an adverb. But you got to think, did the right word come out of my mouth or did a random word come out? So that's part of it. You may know the exact right answer. But if you're not really thinking, the wrong one may come out and then you're like, what? I said the right one. And then you're like, oh, wait, no. You didn't. And Aaron, what happened quickly?
You ran.
So ran is the verb. And remember, adverbs describe verbs. So here we see the adverb coming before the verb. This sentence makes complete sense. I quickly ran to the store. How did I run? Quickly. But I can also say, I ran quickly to the store. We're still using quickly to describe how I ran. We're still talking about the action running, but this time the adverb comes after the verb. Does that change the meaning of the sentence? Did I run a different way just because the adverb came after? No. So you can see the adverb can be written before the verb it describes or after the verb it describes, and it'll still make sense. Okay, now we just have 3 short notes with examples to figure out how we can tell if something is an adverb. Can I go ahead and erase? Okay. I'm going to leave this here. But you guys go ahead and maybe skip like a line or two and then go back to the pink line, because we're still talking about adverbs, but now we're going to do more questions. How can we tell it's an adverb? So maybe skip a line or two and then say, how can we tell? Well, first of all, adverbs tell, no, I'm not going to use that, how something happened. So first of all, adverbs can tell how something happened. Yes, sorry.
The board keeps on going,
focus to unfocus, and it keeps on staying at focus. In focus, and then it'll go back to focus.
Okay, well just do your best and listen. And when it goes back to focus, look back because it looks like it's okay here, so it might just be your internet kind of being a little weird. So just do the best you can because you're a little, like your movements are a little, not bad, but they're just a little bit jerky, you know? Like they're not bad though, so I don't think it's awful right now. It's just a little. Yes, Zadie.
Can you come here for a second?
Yes. So, adverbs tell how something happened. These usually end in the letters ly. So when I'm like, hey, how can you tell this is an adverb? And you say, because there's an ly. Those are the ones that usually tell how. So adverbs tell how something happened, and a clue is that it ends in ly. We actually don't have to write an example because we have one right here. Usually tells how what verb happened. We have the adverb and we have the verb right here. Carla? End. So we have the adverb usually, which tells how something ended. Yes. So we can just use that. We don't even have to write another example. What other example do we have that we did write that tells how something happened? Mason? Quickly tells how what happened. How I ran. It tells how the verb ran happened. Usually tells how the end happened. It usually ends. Does that mean all the time? Does that mean rarely, like barely any of the times? It means most of the time. So usually is an adverb that tells how something ended. We can see a hint that it's probably going to be an adverb that tells how because it has ly at the end. Now, adverbs can also tell when something happened. And unfortunately, unlike how, there's not really clues like the ly. So I'm just going to give you some examples. These are not all of the examples of adverbs that tell when, but these are some of the examples that tell when. Some of the examples of adverbs that tell when. And after this one, I'll erase and write the next one. Yes, Zadie.
After when?
Oops, something. So adverbs also tell when something happened. There are no easy hints like ly, so we just have to memorize them. Or we have to think, is this telling when something happened? So here are some examples. Soon, which means something's happening in the near future. Often, which means something happens a lot. Later, which means it's not happening now, it's happening at the end of the day or next week. And the last example, there are more than this. These are not the only adverbs that tell when. These are just some examples because I don't have the time or the space on the board to list every single adverb that tells when. But one more example is never, which means something doesn't ever happen. So these are some examples of adverbs that tell when something happens. We will go to the store soon. Soon is saying when what verb will happen. We will go to the store soon. What is happening soon? Just tell me the one verb. Smith?
Go.
Go. Soon, we will go to the store. We eat pizza often. What is happening often? Tell me the one verb. Carla? Eat. We run later in the day when it's cooler. Later is telling us when what is happening. Lena?
Run.
Run. We never drink white milk. What never happens? Mason? Drink. So, adverbs, just like they can tell how something happened, and the clue is that an adverb that tells how will usually end in ly. Adverbs can also tell when something happened. So think, is this telling me when I'm eating, running, going, drinking, whatever? Then you know it's an adverb. Last clue. Last thing that can tell us how we know. Is that adverbs can tell where something happened. If it's telling where an action took place, it is an adverb. And again, there's no easy clue like ly, so I'm just going to give you a list of some examples. Not all of them, just some of them. Words like here, there. Yes.
I just thought that you erased now.
So watch the video and catch up.
So do I just like go on
Yep,
to the
skip some
back?
space. Here, there, upstairs, as long as you're saying that it's where something happened. Like I can't say we have an upstairs on our house because then I'm using it as a noun. We have a place, I'm using it as a place. But if I say walk upstairs, I'm describing where I am, Colin? Walking. So things like here, there, upstairs. What else can we say? Underwater. I did some underwater aerobics. Hold on. Erase underwater. Because the more I think about it, it's an adjective. I can't use it properly as an adverb. Because if I'm doing underwater aerobics, I'm describing aerobics, which is a noun. Yes?
My brother used to do underwater robotics.
Oh, robotics, yeah. So that would describe robotics or aerobics, which are nouns. So that would be an adjective. Yes, Carla?
I know another one downstairs.
Well, yes, downstairs. So the opposite, of course, would be, there's more. Let me think. Near and far. We parked near the grocery store. Near tells us where we. Zari? Parked, which is a verb. They traveled far away for vacation. Far tells us where they, Lena? Traveled, which is a verb. Good. So think to yourself, what is it describing? Is it describing where an action happened? It's an adverb. Is it describing how an action happened? It's an adverb. Is it describing when an action happened? It's an adverb. Is it describing a person? It's an adjective. Is it describing a thing? It's an adjective. Is it describing an idea? Sit up. This is not nap time. Is it describing an idea? Then it's an adjective. Is it describing a place? Then it's an adjective. This is why you don't have the notes. I need you to realize that. Okay. So now keep these. The first bullet point says, adjectives and adverbs should not be confused. Adjectives describe what? Zadie?
Nouns.
Adverbs describe, Mason? Verbs. An adjective describes nouns. It gives information about a person, place, or thing. An adverb tells more about the verb, such as how, when, and where an action takes place. So the directions say, read each sentence and look at the underlined verb. Then tell if the word is an adjective or an adverb. So what we have to do is we have to read the sentence, we have to look at the underlined word, and we have to figure out what word is it describing. Once we figure out what word it's describing, we need to think, okay, is that word a noun, person, place, or thing? Or is that word a verb, an action, or a linking verb, like have and be? So, number 1. In 1848, many people quickly moved to California in search of gold. Aaron, what word is quickly describing? Moved. Is moved a noun or a verb? So that means quickly is an adverb. Quickly describes how people moved. They moved quickly. They moved fast. Number 2, the 49ers hope to become rich men. Kingston, the word rich is describing which word? Men. Now, is men a noun or a verb? Noun, which means rich is an adjective. You can't do something rich. So it doesn't describe a verb, it describes a noun. How could we turn rich into an adverb, saying that somebody did something in a rich way? Kingston? Okay, let's just move on. Number 3, I like to read interesting stories about the California gold rush. Smith, interesting is describing what word? Stories. Is stories a noun or a verb?
A noun.
A noun, which means that interesting is an adjective. Number 4, show your father the treasure map that you found yesterday. Lena, yesterday is describing what? Found. Is found a noun or a noun or a verb?
A verb.
A verb, which means yesterday is an adverb. Now let's think, is yesterday describing how, when, or where found happened?
When.
When. When did it happen? It happened yesterday. Number 5, the miner dug deeply into the hole to see if there was gold inside. Mason, what word does deeply describe? Dug. Is dug a noun or a verb? A verb, which means deeply is an adverb. Now, does deeply describe how, when, or where the miner dug? How? How did he dig deeply? He dug really deep into the ground. Number 6, I do not think that what you found in the river is real gold. Carla, what word does real describe in this sentence?
Gold.
Gold. Is gold a noun or a verb?
A verb.
Can you gold?
A noun.
A noun. Because can I gold to the store yesterday?
No.
Can I gold period?
No.
No. So it is a noun, which means real is an
Real is an adjective.
An adjective. Gold is a thing, so that means real is an adjective. Number 7, on our field trip to the gold mine, our guide led us through a dark tunnel. Aaron, dark is describing what? Tunnel. Is tunnel a noun or a verb? A noun, which means dark is an adjective. Number 8, Matt and Eric were standing by a muddy road. Kingston, what is muddy describing? A road. Is road a noun or a verb? Which means muddy is an adjective. Number 9, Raven always wanted to travel back in time to see how her neighborhood used to look. Always is describing what word? Victoria. Always is being used to describe what word? Raven. Use process of elimination. Can we describe Raven as always? Can we describe wanted as always? Raven is a noun. Can we describe Raven, a noun, as always? Wanted is a. Can we describe a verb as always? So what word does always describe? Wanted. And we just decided wanted is a verb, which means that always is an adverb. Now, does that adverb always tell how, when, or where Raven wanted something? Does always describe how, when, or where Raven wanted something? Who can help her out? Cullen? When. Over and over and over, forever. It never ends. Always describes when something happened. When I go to the ice cream place, I always get bubblegum flavored ice cream. So that means when I get ice cream, I always get the same thing. Number 10, they eagerly waited to join the wagon train to California. Let's see, I keep picking people. Who has not gotten a chance to do one of these yet? Zadie. Eagerly describes what?
Waited.
Waited. Is waited a noun or a verb?
A noun.
A noun, it's a person, place, thing, or idea?
No, it's a verb.
It's a verb, which means eagerly is a what?
An adverb.
An adverb. Does eagerly tell you how, when, or where they waited?
How?
How? What is the clue that you can look for right away to say that it tells you how something happened?
Because it says they.
Lena?
L-Y.
L-Y. Everybody look at your notes. Look underneath. How do you know, or how do we know, whatever it is. Find where it says adverbs tell how something happened. Look at the first note underneath it. It says usually ends with L-Y. So L-Y is first of all a clue that it's an adverb. Second of all, a clue that it's an adverb that tells how. Please use your tools. They are right there for you. Do not ignore them just because you want to get done. Okay, so if we look at the bullet points, at the top it says an adverb is a word that tells you more about a verb. Some tell how an action happened, some tell when an action happened, and some tell where an action happens. So, the directions say underline the adverb in each sentence. Then write if the adverb tells how, when, or where the action takes place. So now we know we're only looking for adverbs. We're not looking for adjectives. We're only looking for words that describe a verb. How, when, or where it happened. So what you need to do is if it's your turn, you need to look and you need to say, okay, here's the verb. Here's the action in the sentence. Which word tells me how, when, or where this happened? Then you tell me which question told you it was an adverb. So, number 1. My mother and I went to the library together for information about our ancestors. Carla, what is the verb in this sentence?
Went.
Went. Now we're not underlining went. Actually, let's circle the verbs. So we'll add circle the verb. So we know went. Now which word describes went? It will either answer how did mother and I go? When did mother and I go? Or where did mother and I go? Now it's not to the library, I'll tell you that, because it's not answering the question where did they actually go. It's saying which word describes where, if there is one. Be thinking of the answer because you might have an opportunity to answer. Zari, please sit up. So which word describes when, where, or how this action took place? And we still can't say to the library because were we in the library when we went to the library? No. So we can't use that as where it happened because I wouldn't describe myself as I went to the library in the library. If you can find it, raise your hand. Mason?
Information.
Not information. Information is a noun. Together. How did mother and I go to the library? Together is how we went to the library. Number 2. Many Native Americans lived freely on this land. Cullen, what is the verb? Lived. Which word describes that verb lived?
Freely.
Freely. Does freely say how they lived, when they lived, or where they lived? How they lived, not when. That doesn't give us any idea of when they lived on the land. Not where, because you can't live. Freely is not a place. Number 3, tomorrow we will visit our local museum of natural history. Michaela, what is the verb? Visit. Which word describes the word visit? Local doesn't describe visit. Local describes museum, which is a noun.
Oh, museum.
Museum is a noun, so we can't use that to describe anything at all. I just said local describes museum, which is a noun. So local is an adjective. But local doesn't describe visit. Lena?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Look for words that answer the question, how did we go, when did we go, or where did we go? We went together. That's how we went. Look for a word that tells when they lived, how they lived, or where they lived. Freely tells how they lived. Look for a word that tells when they visited, how they visited, or where they visited. Tomorrow tells when. Now I need you to understand where they visited is not the local museum. Because that would mean they were literally in the local museum when they went to visit. And does that make sense? It's the same as this. When did it happen means things like always, sometimes, occasionally, usually, whatever. Not nouns. Like a museum or a library, that is a noun. So it can't be an adverb. Nouns cannot be adverbs. Number 4, were they traveling far in search of gold? Zari, what is the verb?
Traveling.
Traveling. Which word describes how, when, or where they traveled?
Far.
Far. So which question did that answer? How, when, or where?
Where?
Where? Number 5, did James Marshall first find gold at Sutter's Mill? Lena, which word is the verb? Find. Which word describes how, when, or where find happened? First. Which question did that answer? How, when, or where?
When.
When. Very good. When did he find it? First time. Number 6, John Sutter Jr. built a new city nearby along the Sacramento River. Carla, which word is the verb?
Build.
Built. Which word describes how, when, or where John Sutter Jr. built something?
Nearby.
Nearby. Which question did that answer? How, when, or where he built something?
Where?
Where? Some of you it's starting to click. Number 7, we patiently sifted the sand for gold. Zadie, what is the verb?
Sifted.
Sifted. Which word describes how, when, or where we sifted the sand?
Patient.
Patiently. Which question did that answer?
How?
How? How did we sift it? We did it patiently. Number 8, our uncle examined the rock carefully. Lena, which is the verb?
Examine.
Examined. Which word tells how, when, or where our uncle examined the rock?
Carefully.
Carefully. Which question did that answer?
How?
How? How did he examine it? Carefully. Number 9, he carelessly threw the stone back in the water. Smith, what is the verb?
Through.
How, when, or where did he throw the stone?
Carelessly.
Carelessly. Which question did that answer?
How?
How did he throw the stone? He threw it carelessly. Number 10, that greedy miner looked at them suspiciously. Cullen, what's the verb?
Looked.
Looked. Which word describes how, when, or where the greedy miner looked? Now, we're not describing the miner. We're describing how he looked. Not how he looked, like not his face, but how did he actually use his eyes to see?
At this suspicious.
Michaela,
Suspiciously.
suspiciously. Which question did that answer, Michaela?
How?
How? How did the miner look? He did it suspiciously. Number 11, we quickly ran down the path. Aaron, what is the verb? Ran. Which word describes how, how, when, or where we ran? Quickly. Which question did that answer? How? How did we run? We ran quickly. Number 12, we then found the gold. Zari, what is the verb?
Found.
Found. Which word describes how, when, or where we found something?
Then.
Then. Which question did that answer?
When.
When. When did we find the gold? Then. So think to yourself, how did I go? If there's a good answer, together, then that's the adverb. When did I go? There's not a good answer for that. Where did I go? We can't say library because library is a noun. So that means there is no good answer. Number 2, we need to think. How did they live? There's a good answer, freely. There is no good answer for when they lived or where they lived because land is a noun. So can we say that's the answer? That the answer is where? Is land because it's where? No, because that's a noun. So be thinking. Once you find the verb, be thinking, okay, which question answers how did they live? If there isn't one, then try when did they live? If there isn't one, then try where did they live? And make sure the answer is not a noun. If the answer to where they did something is a noun, that's not the adverb. because a word can't be a noun and an adverb at the same time. It can't. It's not possible. So let's go over your independent practice. It won't be due till Wednesday, and then we'll do social studies. So let's look at the front. It says comfortable, question mark. The directions say, follow the steps to change each adjective into an adverb. If the adverb tells how, mark an X in the how column. If the adverb tells when, mark an X in the when column. So think of a verb. If it happened loudly, does that tell how the verb happened or when the verb happened? Zari.
How the verb happened.
How. So you would put an X over this T in the how column. So follow the directions to change each of these adjectives into an adverb. Then think of a verb. If that adverb tells how the verb happened, put an X over the letter in the how column. If it tells when the verb happened, put an X over the letter in the when column. At the end, whatever's left, the letters that are not crossed out, match them down here. So number 1, whichever one is not crossed out, put it on the line with number 1 below it. Now, this is where I get real frustrated because some of you turn these into me and you have a bunch of just random letters down here. That shows me that you did not try. Because if this doesn't make sense, are you done? Are they just having you put random letters down here for no reason at all? No. So if this doesn't make sense, you need to go back and try again. I can guarantee you I will still have many of you that come back with a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense. That just tells me that you got to the end and you're like, I really don't care what my grade is. I know all my answers are wrong because this doesn't make sense, but I just don't care. That's what you're telling me, because this is not going to give you a question to answer and then not answer it. So you need to work hard. Well, you really don't even have to work hard if you think. But if you don't want to think, then keep looking for the easy ways and work a lot harder than you need to. On the back, you're just doing some general adverb stuff. Read the box at the top. It will have important information that will help you. Then the directions for the first part say circle the adverb in each sentence. Then underline the verb it's describing. So you're doing the opposite. Here we circled the verb, underline the adverb. Here you'll be underlining the verb and circling the adverb. Use the clues. Numbers 1 through 2 and 3 are only going to be adverbs that tell how, and so on. Use those clues to help you. You're finding the verb, which we should all be able to do. And if it's under section A, then you're thinking, okay, which word tells me how this happened? Then at the bottom, you need to use the adverb bank to fill in the blanks. There's only one that will work for each one. That means if on number 1 you find one that works, but then when you get to number 4 you can't find one that works, that might mean that one of the ones you chose earlier was not the best answer. So there is a correct answer for each of these. There is not one that will work in more than one place. Any questions about independent practice? Yes, Victoria, quickly.
Can you talk about A, B, and C? I saw in 1, 2, 3 that there's hints about an adverb.
Okay. Then yes, that's what you're supposed to be looking for. Okay, go ahead and put that in return to school, and then quickly get out your things for social studies.